Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which I find out that educators often do not teach, but rather preach. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Saturday. Sanctimonious Saturday. It's cold here. Need to warm myself up. How about with some white hot anger? Well, no, not really. Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. Today's talk, just for reference, comes to us from John Cabot University. And where is John Cabot University? I didn't know. I was curious, given the speaker has an accent. That's as much as I know about the speaker, aside from his name here. And I was curious, where is John Cabot University? Well, it is a American liberal arts university, college, whatever, located in Italy. So that's interesting. I don't know if that has any bearing on the talk today, but I just found that, well, interesting. And what else do I find interesting? Why, all of you. And who might you be? Keenan, hello. Asian Hippie, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Nathaniel Taylor, hello. Too many syllables for me this time of day. Matt Barnes, hello. Zalba, hello. Hayden Lott, hello. And then chat jumped already because of course it does. Brittany Holland, hello. Swirl Blue, hello. Black Belt for Christ, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Dark Alile, hello. Mirai Vegeta, hello. Green Death, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Evil One, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg. Mike R, hello. Crimson Tiger, hello. Bluntly Blondie, hello. Quinn the Cultist, hello. Lurking Golfer, hello. Pink Hollow the Driving Ape Man, hello. Brutus, hello. Mark Poniki, hello. Shio Gorath, hello. Luke Skywalker 2, hello. RLF Home Services, hello. Kieverdam, hello. That One Servant of Satania, hello. No One Nowhere, hello. Aspie Auntie, hello. Johnny Stoffel, hello. All right, everyone. So, yes, another entry into potentially some disturbing educational philosophies. What is the title of today's little excursion? The role of educators in creating change makers. The role of educators in creating change makers. Now that says a lot to me all by itself, because the role of educators these days has seemingly mutated, for lack of a better word, into something I'm not quite sure they should be. But we'll explore that together. Wade Willison, hello. Ivor Singatorix, hello. So, as usual, guys, get your bingo cards ready. Link is in the description to the bingo card. This will probably be the last use of this iteration of the bingo card. I'll probably shuffle it for the next one. So have fun with that. And as always, I will start off with a few seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed.
We have heard all kinds of things when talking about climate change.
Yes, we have heard all sorts of things when it comes to talking about climate change. So, all right, I guess we're going to go with climate change. Is that the change makers? Is that where the change part comes in? The role of educators in making climate change makers? Ha 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 ha. Sounds good, says Mike R. Sounds good, says Asian Hippie. Hello, the original shroom. Green Death says good to go. All right, here we go. Here we go.
And the different trajectories through history that have brought to this crisis.
You know, this is a rare instance where a TEDx speaker is sitting. I'm trying to imagine of other instances where that's been the case. I remember one where a lady was sitting sideways the entire presentation, which made her look really fancy, I guess. But I think, yeah, he is one of but a very few. I wonder why. I also assume there's no audience since I don't hear any people noises.
And we also heard that it's the time frame to try to solve this crisis is very limited.
It's been very limited since I was a young boy. I've been told that the world was going to end because of the greenhouse effect or global warming or climate change most of my life. In fact, I think we were already supposed to have hit the red line about 20 years ago. And before that, probably 10 or 20 years before that, and so on. So, I don't know.
I'm the director of an institute that has a very interesting name. It's called Institute of Future and Innovation Studies.
The Institute of Future Innovation Studies. IFIS. Okay.
Now, when analyzing the incredibly complex dynamics that brought to the crisis,
Yeah.
I think it's important to be able to go back a little bit in history.
Golly, go back in history to analyze the origins of the crisis. Gosh, you blew my mind.
One of the key functions of my institute, which is an institute within a university framework, is that of providing students with the tools to be able to understand the social conditions and the dimensions that influence the evolution, transformation, and impact of different scenarios in innovation.
Okay, you're gonna have to define what you mean by innovation, because I don't know what that means. You're talking about like just technological innovation or societal innovation or what? And I don't know.
Now, one of the key problems when analyzing what brought us to this current stage, it's really based on I would say what is a lack of experience. So the initial conditions for the transformation of climate really had an origin with the transformation of the industrial complex.
You don't say, do you mean to tell me that with the advent of the industrial age, we started affecting our climate and our environment? Really? Wow.
The transformation of modernity, the transformation of production, the transformation and processes of invention of electricity and other forms of energy, and the key role of technology in transforming our life.
Transform. And uh-oh, my phone rings. Sorry, guys. I'll be back in just a second. My indomitable father, everyone, who has a knack, a very talented knack for calling me in the middle of shows. So apologies for that. I lost my place. Evil One, what is Scribelight's ringtone? Why, that would be the opening tune to the song Flame by the band Sebado. So if you needed to know, there you go. All right, I'm on the cusp of circling word salad with this guy because I don't know where he's going or what he's doing, and he said a bunch of things so far that don't make a whole heck of a lot of sense because I don't know what he's talking about. Where are we going? Okay, climate change. You run an institute within a university that discusses the impacts of innovation on stuff and things and stuff. And also, did you know that the Industrial Revolution and the advent of technology has affected the climate and our environment? Thank you, John Miller. It's all right, Scribe. My mother has ESP when I'm playing Dark Souls bosses and must call me too. Yes, parents know. Somehow there's a little mystic cord of memory between us, and it's like, I'm in the middle of something. Oh, hi, Dad. All
right. What we have learned in these decades is that to be able to foresee what the impact of an emerging technology is going to be is a fundamental dimension of any technological evolution.
Okay, so in the past decades, how did you foresee the effects of the internet? I mean, I'm assuming this isn't your first rodeo, so you've been doing this in some way, shape, or form for several years. I'm just curious. I mean, it's a random example, but I'm not sure that anybody 20, 30 years ago could have predicted what the internet would turn into or what it would evolve into. So I wonder how accurate his previous work has been.
I want to talk about social responsibility, technology, and the role of the governance of the future.
The governance of the future, social responsibility. Okay.
And how this might have an impact on solving the current crisis of the climate change, and also to foresee the possible future crisis.
Okay, as far as I can tell, and as far as I've been told for most of my life, the path we've been on since the Industrial Revolution, both in America and in countries around the world, with pumping greenhouse gases into the air, pollution, and so on and so forth, we cannot solve, quote unquote, the crisis. We cannot turn back the clock on 100+ years of technological innovation and or damage that has been done to the environment. We can't just make it go away. We can't solve it. We might be able to mitigate the amount of impact we have going forward, but a lot of the damage, such as it is done. So I'm not quite sure what they mean by saying solving the crisis. Because at the same time, I'm being told that the crisis is upon us and there's no turning back. So I'm never quite sure what they mean. Either the world is coming to an end and it's too late, or everything I've been told since I was 5 years old is reversible with some kind of light switch that nobody's telling us about. I don't know.
As the ones that might, for example, emerge by an unencumbered or unaccountable evolution of artificial intelligence. So
artificial intelligence, where are we right now? Artificial intelligence? You're talking about climate change? Pick a lane, please, Professor. Pick a lane. I'm getting confused. You know what? Hell with it. I'm circling word salad. Free space and word salad. He needs to pick a topic and stick with it. Unless he's an expert in both climate change and artificial intelligence and didn't tell us or something.
One of the key roles of the Institute is to be able to understand these evolutions and to foresee these patterns.
Oh, okay, so what is going to be the end result of artificial intelligence development? What conclusions has your institute come to on AI, just as an example? Or what is the end result of climate change? Because what it sounds like right now is that you're running a horoscope school.
Now, when you think about the evolution of the or different kind of levels of evolution in technology, we clearly can see that there's a direct correlation between energy consumption and economic growth.
Correlation does not mean causation necessarily, but okay. Energy consumption and economic growth. Sure. As your economy grows, as your technology becomes more dependent, more energy. Yes. Okay. I'll go along with that.
So it's kind of, we have to remember that part of the crisis is grounded in an immensely transformative social process.
You really like that word, transformative, transform. Use a lot. Okay. So yes. Social process, right?
That has been incredibly positive for humanity.
Okay.
The transformation of forms of production, the innovation in technology, the transformation of energy into forms of labor.
Yes, that's all very interesting. When are we going to get to your predictions about the future? Thank you, Johnny Stoffel. Theirs is to seek answers, not actually find any. I mean, there is utility in asking questions, right? And stopping and thinking and asking questions or asking about possibilities and brainstorming. I mean, there's plenty of utility in that. But he's running an institute inside a university, so presumably there's an end goal. There's something that's being taught. There's something that's being achieved. And so far, what does this have to do with producing change makers? I don't know.
Had a direct bearing on the improvement of many societies.
Yeah.
There is a direct link between how much we consume in terms of energy, and the economic growth of a society and the social conditions, the health, and we can say the well-being of the societies that consume most energy.
Sure. Okay. And
this is an undeniable truth. I mean,
you're right. It is an undeniable truth. It seems almost simplistic. And you run an institute inside a university that goes over this stuff? Okay.
There's an historical dimension to this, but it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
If you look, for example, at the world as it is today, we are about 7.6 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
It's 2020, and 1.2 billion people on this planet right now still have very little access or no access to electricity.
So 1.2 billion out of 7.6 billion. I mean, better odds than Vegas.
1.2 billion people have no access to electricity. 5 countries around the world consume 80% of the global consumption of energy.
Yeah, let me guess. America, I don't know. Trying to think. Probably Britain, maybe? European countries?
There's a profound difference in the access and consumption of energy and the consequences that this production of energy had for the planet.
Well, yeah, because more developed countries probably have more complex power grids being used by more people more consistently. So, yes, I agree. You've convinced me. Where are we going with this?
Those societies that consume the most have a responsibility. They've received advantages from this technological revolution.
Received advantages or developed capacities? I mean, our power grid doesn't just come out of nowhere. We built it, we maintain it, we improve it. It's kind of our thing. If it is a privilege, if it is an advantage, it is an earned privilege and an earned advantage. So...
and the use of these energies. It's interesting and it's important to understand that whenever we think about the solution of climate change, we have also to account and we have to be aware of finding solutions that are not part of a first world kind of the green economy cannot be a first world global project.
What? When we're finding solutions, it cannot be a first world global project? Did I understand that right? Okay, let me... if he means that we different countries can't approach the problem the same way as, say, a first world country does, then I suppose you're right, because every country is doing something different that probably can be improved to reduce the problem, I guess. I'm trying real hard, guys.
It needs to be able to create sustainable solutions that offer the same opportunities to all the people around the world that still didn't manage to take advantage of all the transformative relations and the social and economic processes that have characterized this reliance on energy.
Okay, I don't know what that cut to black screen was just then. That was part of the original video. If I could circle word salad more than once and make it count for something, I'd be doing it about 5 times now, because none of that meant anything. And you're not going to have the same opportunities available to everybody on the planet in all countries on the planet, because all countries are different. They are different. There are different levels of development. They have different laws, cultures, so on and so forth. Climate change and the solutions thereof are not necessarily the priorities in many nations, given that they probably have problems that are far, far more serious than worrying about whether or not they're contributing to climate change. So I don't know what he is talking about. Where are we going with this? What? You run an institute inside of a university. People pay you money for this?
If you look at the cost of energy today, there's still a profound imbalance between the cost of combustible fuels and alternative energy. It's the ratio of some of them. It's 8-1, for example, if you think about nuclear energy, and I think it's 6 or 5-1 if you compare it to other forms of energy.
Okay. And how much energy has to be expended, let's say, as an example, to build a windmill? How much energy has to be expended to maintain a windmill? How much carbon goes into the environment and the atmosphere and is burned, etc., to generate the metal and the plastic and the electronics, and so on and so on and so on, to build solar panels? Yeah, and what?
Now it's important to understand that whatever technological solution might be implemented to solve the crisis.
But so, okay, describe the crisis and tell us what you mean by solve. Okay, because none of us are going to stop burning wood to keep warm. None of us are going to stop mining coal to get energy. You're never going to have a situation, short of some weird sci-fi territory, where we are not burning fossil fuels in some way, shape, or form to generate the energy necessary to make the modern world run. Okay, so what do you mean by solve the crisis? What is your image of the solution? In a perfect world, what does it look like? And then let's walk backwards from that to tell you how that cannot happen. And so where do we find compromise? I cannot assess what you are talking about unless you tell us what you are talking about.
It needs to be one that is sustainable, scalable, and one that can be also adopted and implemented by all societies. So
okay, well, Mr. Center for Innovation, what is that system? What is that process? What does that look like? You have all the answers. This is your job. This is your specialty. What is it?
So there's a very complex dimension.
I understand it's complex, okay? You work at a university. Things are supposed to be more complex than going to grade school. I get it. So break it down for us. You've got 6 minutes left in your presentation. We've wasted everything so far talking gobbledygook. Could you tell us what you're talking about, please? Thank you, Drew W. You don't need machines to extract the materials for renewable resources. That's what child labor in China is for. Yeah. Who needs mechanisms when we have the human machine? And thank you, Pincalo. Natural gas was supposed to be the clean fix. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's contributed to a much cleaner option. But the thing is, to get to the natural gas, you got to do a lot of dirty work. No pun intended, but I'll take it. I really would like to know what your solutions are. I would really like to know what your institute has foreseen in its giant, innovative crystal ball as to what is going to save us all from ourselves. Please, tell me.
So on one side, I understand the debate about this process of transformation of energy.
Oh my God.
But on the other side, I also know the curve that characterizes all technologies. All technologies that started, that are innovative, and they're in the early stage of evolution are normally more costly. And in this specific case, can be only afforded by societies with greatest economic means.
Yes. Okay. So what do you forecast as the end result of this? Or at least the 20-year out result of this? What is the solution? What has your institute come up with as the most reasonable possible answer to, quote unquote, solve the crisis? I mean, telling us that we need to solve the crisis is a great goal. That's a great goal. Solving the energy crisis or solving the climate change crisis, that's a great goal. What is your idea towards achieving said goal?
But it also means that these kind of technologies and the evolution of these technologies needs to be guided into a process that wants to resolve all problems in an organic way. And I think the only way that it can be done is by a form of cooperation and collaboration.
Okay. Going to the bingo card, because I haven't already. Anecdote that probably never happened. He hasn't given us any anecdotes. He's just been babbling on and on and on. Thank you, Drew W. We need to get rid of using oil products. What are plastic windmills made of again? Yeah, that's the one part that I always have to ask when I hear about all these solutions. You know, where does the plastic come from? Like, what was it the other day? Microsoft said, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030 or something like that. And I'm like, okay, so where does all the plastic come from to build your Xboxes? How are you going to square that circle? All the components that go into your products, where do they come from? What are they made of? What is the process by which to create them? You're going to be carbon something in 2030? Okay. I mean, I suppose if they move away from physical game consoles and everything's online, but then, yeah, anyway. Let's see. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No. Systemic institutional? Not specifically yet, sort of. I mean, he's talked about economic systems and things. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm going to circle that one. Because already in aggregate, he's talked about systems and institutions insofar as his school and countries and such. Weightless example. I don't know that he's given us any examples of anything yet. I mean, I'll take arguments elsewise after we're done with this, but oh boy, leaves out vital context. Yes, leaves out vital context. I have no idea what he's talking about, where he's going, or even the purpose of this so far. I was expecting something completely different. So I guess in one way, I'm glad to be surprised. But I have no idea what he's talking about. Thank you, Johnny Stoffel. The problem we need to come together and solve is the problem we need to come together and solve. So we need to come together and keep up my salary. Yeah, there's a problem, guys. We have to find a solution. And to find a solution, we have to understand the problem. Because the problem is we have a problem, and we need to find a solution. Blah, 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 blah. Lather, rinse, and repeat. Takes credit for something done experienced by others in their demographic. No. White supremacy? No. A list? Not formally. Maybe loosely, but I'm not yet. Privilege? He talked about advantages and such, and I'm going to take that as privilege, because he talked about like some countries have the advantages over others, etc., as though somehow they just manifested them out of nothing. Equity. He talked about equal opportunity, not equality of outcome, but I'm not sure that he wasn't crossing the line somewhere, so I'll sit on that one. Plays victim. He's talking about really broad topics and ideas. He's not talking about personal stuff, so can't say. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I tell you what, for as many times as he says transformative and evolutionary or evolution or transform, it's not coining a new buzzword or buzz phrase, but boy, he likes to repeat it a lot. Wage gap, no. Patriarchy, no. Feminism, no. Mind reading assumes motives. Not really. Toxic. Well, I mean, you could say, well, you know, climate change is about toxic waste and so on. Maybe. I might be willing to give it to that later if it's not a bingo square. Marginalization, no. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, no. Childhood to family anecdote, he hasn't talked about himself. Contradicts own point or argument. I mean, I don't even know what the argument is yet. I don't know that he's even achieved a point, so I don't know that he can contradict anything. Benevolent condescension. I feel like I'm being talked down to when he says there's a correlation between energy expenditure and population size or whatever the hell it was. Like, and microaggressions, unconscious bias. No. This might be a very Spartan TEDx for the TEDx card guys. But as I say, I will take arguments at the end. Let's continue.
Now, it's important to understand the role of different agencies in this process of transformation.
Okay.
I like to talk and I like to discuss what I call a multi-stakeholder approach.
Okay, what I like to call a multi-stakeholder approach, that is attempting to coin a new buzzword, buzz phrase. Whenever I hear something I like to call, okay, multi-stage approach, right?
A multi-stakeholder approach means that different actors within civic society need to collaborate together within their own agendas and accounting for their own agendas, trying to reach an equilibrium where all interests have reached the balance.
Good luck. You're never going to reach a balance amongst multiple people with multiple agendas coming together. You might reach a compromise. And I mean, I guess if you want to say compromise is balance, then maybe. But if everything's going to be decided by committee like that, it's going to be a lengthy process.
If you think about civic society and the emphasis that is normally put on the individual, on our ability to have to solve the problem of energy consumption and this reliance of energy and the consequences that they have for climate change.
Okay, that was a cut. That was an edit just there. Did you see that? At least it felt like it. Let me back up a couple seconds. All right, watch his body position, watch his face, and then watch when we fade to the next thing. Is that just me?
Energy and the consequences that they have for climate change.
Maybe not.
The transformation will be gradual and will be complex.
What? Transformation into what? What are you talking about? Good God. I mean, okay. I come across a lot of TEDx's where they don't end up actually specifying certain things and get a little out of context. But this guy has said nothing about nothing after 8 minutes. What?
It's clear that cannot be through one form of energy.
Okay, well, how many forms of energy? What forms of energy? There's a limited quantity in our world. What are they?
It's clear that an entire system needs to evolve from one form of energy and the use of one form of energy to another.
Which system? How? From what to what? Tell me.
It's clear also that this transformation has a cost. If you try to look at China, for example, which...
Okay, all right. Well, my God, an example. All right, let's look at China. What about China?
Which is certainly one of the countries in the world that now has the biggest footprint in terms of consumption and polluting.
Okay, yes. China is a giant consumer of energy and also a giant producer of waste, let's say. Okay, and?
It's complicated for a society that is going through such a profound process of economic transformation to immediately transform the entire infrastructure that is based on a specific form of energy towards another. But China itself...
Okay, yes, it is. It would be difficult for China to literally flip a switch and change their entire process for existing to something that is a cleaner form of energy production, consumption, and expulsion as far as waste. You're right. You're right. You cannot just turn around and do that on a dime. Wow. Golly gee whiz. You run an institute for this? Okay, well then, you have the example of China. What would be the solution?
Although it's certainly one of the countries that is contributing the most to the problem right now.
Okay, that blackout there was part of the original video. I don't know why they did that. That freaked me out for a second. I thought something went wrong, but okay. I'm going to back up a couple seconds because I'll watch that again, but all right.
Certainly one of the countries that is contributing the most to the problem right now is fully aware of the incredible advantage that there is in developing alternative forms of energy production.
Oh, okay. They may be aware of it. Are they doing it? What does that have to do with anything? How is that an example of anything? China uses a lot of energy, produces a lot of energy, creates a lot of waste. They're aware of alternate ways of producing energy. And
probably is one of the countries that is investing the most. I think that the competitive advantage of innovation in the energy sector should be one of the leading forms of conversation. There is a process of transformation. Technology is in continuous evolution, and companies around the world and nations and governments have an interest in creating and sustaining this process of transformation.
Are you just a spectator? I mean, you talked before about trying to estimate or to project or to predict or whatever else the outcomes of AI and climate change and everything else. But you're reporting. You're just telling me things that I probably could have figured out on my own with a couple of Google searches. What do you do? What exactly is your purpose in this institute that you run? Can you give us anything of output from your institute where you foresaw something that's happening now, or you have some kind of prediction for where things are going to go? Where is China going to be in 20 years, given their current behavior, given their investment in alternative energy sources, and also the culture and so on and so forth? Where is China going to be in 20 years? Obviously, we can't know sitting here whether you're right or you're wrong. But otherwise, I have no idea why you're here, why you're telling us any of this, or what the purpose is. Because we've spent the last 9 minutes and 45 seconds listening to you tell us that there's a problem, that we need to find a solution, and that there's a problem, and we need to find a solution. Drew W., thank you so much. The solution to getting energy from higher costs for electricity is to have a more prosperous nation. You don't get that for socialism. Well, I mean, he hasn't even dived into politics yet, except for talking about different nations. I don't know what he's suggesting, if he's suggesting anything at all. Does he have a solution? Does he have an idea? Does he have a path forward for China or US or anywhere else? Does he? And what does this have to do with the role of educators in creating change makers? He hasn't even talked about education, save for the fact that he works in an institute inside of a university. I feel like I got falsely advertised here, because I was expecting somebody to tell me how they're taking their students and turning them into, agents of change or something. But now I'm getting some nonsensical diatribe on climate change needs to be solved because it's a problem, so we need to find a solution because it's a problem.
Within this conversation, I think there needs to be also an emphasis on the scalability and the sustainability of these technologies. But when I talk about scalability and sustainability, I perhaps refer to the broader ability of the entire world and society to take advantage of the use of this renewable energy or these alternative energies.
And that's not a comment on his accent. I can understand him. It's just this constant, just say something substantive, irate Alex. Please. You got 2 minutes. Can you sum up with something that makes it seem like this was at all a worthwhile endeavor? Because aside from my pepper jack, which I am enjoying right now, you are probably the least entertaining of any of the nonsensical speakers I've ever listened to.
So a macro picture should be emerging.
A macro picture should be emerging. A macro picture of what? Nothing is emerging. You are as opaque as frosted glass. Got you there, didn't I, guys? There's a reference.
From this conversation.
No.
The role of education.
The role of education In the last 2 minutes, you're going to get to the educational part of this? Okay, tell me what the role of education is. Okay, all right. You got 2 minutes to do it. Go ahead.
The role of education is pivotal in this process of transformation.
Yeah.
People might tell you that we have to try to target this evolution within a decade.
What?
In my view, this transformation will require certainly more than a decade, but the ability to project, organize, and articulate this transformation through 1, 2, or 3 decades is perhaps one of the fundamental functions of the leaders of tomorrow. The universities should be able to try to educate students and future leaders.
The universities should be allowed to try to educate students and future leaders. Yeah, gosh, we send our kids to universities, and those universities are just constrained from educating the What are you talking about?
To understand the complex dimensions of this process of transformation.
What the complex processes of the complex processes of what transformation? What? From coal-fired electricity to wind-generated electricity? I don't know. I'm guessing because you haven't said. Transformation from one form of energy to another. Okay, name a form of energy and name another, and then tell me how it's transforming one from the other over time. Show me the process. How do you move a society from a coal or oil-based energy process to a wind and solar process? What steps have to be taken? How does that look over time? What are the complications? What are the compromises that are going to have to take place? Because you can't create plastic unless you get oil, and you can't get oil unless you're drilling for oil, and on and on. I mean, why? So often do I feel like I'm doing more thinking about the subject at hand than the person who's supposed to be the expert on the stage. I mean, okay.
They should be able to account for different elements that are pivotal in this process of transformation. And they also should be able to foresee what are the possible challenges that are going to emerge in the future.
Yeah, okay. All right. They should be able to foresee, because I guess you run, again, a horoscope school.
So this is what I call the governance of the future.
The governance of the future. This is what you call the governance of the future. What do you call the governance of the future? I mean, if you were pointing to something and said, this is what I call the governance of the future, tell me what the thing you're pointing at looks like, because I've spent 11 minutes listening to you describe nothing.
And by this, I mean that only through a multi-stakeholder collaboration with education and the engagement of the present leaders and leaders of the future, we can really foresee an evolution that not only tackles the immediate crisis of the global climate change, but also the future crisis of the scarcity of the resources and the constant increase in energy that will be required so that everybody on the planet has the same and can take the same advantage of the process of innovation that are led by technology and by energy as a driver of these processes.
I don't know what's going on. Holy. Thank you, Drew W. Step 1, electricity from fossil fuels. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, clean energy for all. Yeah. What is the bridge? Transformation. What is the middle step? The guy runs an institute inside of a university, an American university in Italy, an institute for innovation studies. And he spent 12 minutes saying absolutely nothing. Nothing. Okay, I'm circling as much as I can. There's not a whole lot to circle. Weightless example, he brings up China, but then does not go any further with it except to say, oh, China's a big country. It uses a lot of energy. It produces a lot of waste. It's invested a lot of money in alternative energy sources. And yeah, no one, nowhere. Imagine what his lectures are like, LMAO. I can't imagine anyone pays this man money. If that is an on-stage premier example of whatever it is he has to offer at his institute inside a university, I am boggled as to what people are getting for their money. Because that was nothing. That was nothing. That was like cotton candy as a food source, except it didn't even taste good. It was like aerogel. What was that? Okay, one more review. Anecdote that probably never happened. He never gave us any. Self-vilification or wretchedness. He never talked about himself. Takes credit for something done by others in their demographic. No, not. He didn't talk about anybody or anything. White supremacy, no. A list. I mean, maybe there was something he... I don't know. Not specifically. I'll take arguments. Equity, no. Plays victim, no. Wage gap, no. Patriarchy, no. Feminism, no. Mind reading assumes motives, no. Toxic, no. Marginalization, marginalized, no. Make something about race, sex, etc., no. Childhood or family anecdote, no. Contradicts own point or argument. He would have had to have had one. Benevolent condescension, I'm circling that one because I feel like I was talked down to in several instances. Like, why is this guy getting paid to be a professor or something? Because I could have come up with the same thing and not had a degree. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, no. Drew W., thank you so much. The word government comes from to govern. Main definition means to slow down and impede. Yeah, I mean, usually with good reason, depending on the circumstances. But yeah, the future governance. All right. Yeah, wow, this was... this went by quick because he said a lot of nothing, and there wasn't anything to talk about, really, because he didn't say anything about anything. And the title of this, the title presented to me by TEDx, is completely misleading. Only at the last 2 minutes did he mention anything you could even be generous enough to say dealt with education. And even then, it didn't really deal with anything about education. Creating change makers. I mean, I made the thumbnail on the presumption, obviously an incorrect presumption, that we were going to be given a lecture on how to train students to become activists of one form or another. Never got there. Never ever got there. So I was wrong. Public declaration, full transparency. I assumed incorrectly. You know, the old adage about what happens when you assume hit me square in the teeth. All the same, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, Ken Lee requires mind reading to get to his future. You know what? With his horoscope, you're right, Ken. You're right. Mind reading assumes motives. Yeah, he has to just gain clairvoyance enough to know what the future is going to be to tell us that he doesn't have an answer. So, all right, I circled that one. Let me actually put up the bingo card so you guys can all see where we're at. That is where I'm at. Any other arguments for squares not circled, guys? Because I don't see a bingo in our future. Speaking of horoscopes, but I'm open to arguments because there might be a couple of gray areas here. And you know, I can only apologize because I was honestly expecting to have another entry into Curriculum of Fear. You know, another educator telling us how the role of educators is to train students to become change makers, activists, agents of change, etc., and so forth. And by the title, I don't think I can be blamed for thinking that. But no, I was fooled. Let's see. Advocatus Diaboli, he should go back to his Anton LaVey impersonator day job. Anton LaVey had a bit more style than this guy and not as much facial hair. Or at least the facial hair was far more curated, let's say. Blind Press, there should be a bingo space for misleading titles. See, here's the thing. I'm not sure how much of that is the speaker's responsibility versus TEDx's responsibility, because I've seen TED and TEDx repost the video, the same video multiple times and change the titles. So unless they actually use a title in a slide or something that they're presenting, which many have before, I have to be really skeptical about whether the titles being put on the YouTube videos are the speaker's idea or not. Do I blame the speaker for the TEDx channel's decisions? I don't know. That's a philosophical question. Johnny Stoffel, aha, Scribelight was the one assuming motives here. You're right. I was assuming motives from evidence presented to me at hand. You're correct. Should I take away a square for that? Do I negate a square off the bingo card for that? Am I going to have a TEDx that comes in under an hour at this point? That would be nuts. Let's see. Mark Panicki. And am I saying that right? Is it Panicki or Panicki? I don't want to say it wrong if I can help it. Have you considered just having multiple cards and selecting one based on what you think has the best chance of getting a bingo? Regular bingo has multiple cards, but only one can win. The only reason I don't do that is because we've whittled this down to those elements that make up the most common things you find in a TEDx, period. And to have multiple cards with the same squares on them, yeah, I could mix them up, but I don't have a card like, this is the card for the restorative justice TEDx, or this is the card for the white supremacy TEDx or something. TEDx's are TEDx's. They are a singular kind of creature with multiple facets. And so far, I think what we've got on the board is about as perfect a list of possible elements you can find in your average TEDx. And that's really what we're aiming for, to find the perfect TEDx. If we find a TEDx that gets all the squares circled, that'll be a day. We've come close, but we haven't yet. So on the day we find the TEDx that legitimately circles all the squares, I think the universe will implode. And maybe that's the point at which I end the series. We'll see. Let's see. Ken Lee, word salad shooter. I saw a radish go by at 800 miles an hour. Yeah. Kieverdam, excluding Chromosome Lady. Chromosome Lady is an exception because you just have to watch that one. And I don't think many people would disagree with me after that one for just how, I mean, this guy was ridiculous for saying nothing. She was ridiculous for saying nothing, but thinking that she was saying something. Maybe that's the differential there. It's sort of like what separates just a bad movie from The Room, you know, that kind of thing. Let's see. Mark Panicki, it's whatever you want it to be. I don't care how it's pronounced. Well, now that's no fun. I'll never know. I want to know the answer. Let's see. Who else? Well, I don't see any arguments for other squares, so I think we hit a wall, guys. Yeah, okay. Well, this was my Saturday afternoon, at least. Having my mind melted by wanting to understand something more than the speaker was either willing or able to provide, which is pretty sad. So yeah, what did we learn today? Absolutely nothing. Everyone, thank you for joining me. I apologize. I don't know why I'm apologizing. It's not my fault. It's his fault. It's TEDx's fault. That's why I do this. It's their fault, damn it. It's not me. It's not me subjecting myself or anybody else to this. It's just what happens. I don't have a choice. I have a compulsion. It's OTD, obsessive TEDx disorder. I'm trying to find a solution because it's a problem. And the problem needs a solution because it's a problem. And I have to find a solution. Maybe it's Pepperjack. Everyone, thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for your attendance, your participation, and thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. If you would like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents or the Ranting Monkey, you can find all three of us tonight on the Ranting Monkeys channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for The Lords of the Night, where we'll talk about the news of the day, news stories that you submit to us, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your questions and comments. I may do something tomorrow on Sunday that will not be a TEDx, or I may take the day off. We'll see. Keep an eye on Twitter. My Twitter is in the description. Or if it's not for some reason, you can see it on the screen. Or if you're not looking at the screen for some reason, it is scribe_light on Twitter. Also, I never mentioned this. Two things. One, I do have a merchandise store that I rarely plug because reasons, I guess. If you want to have a TEDXcellence t-shirt, there's some in there. If you want to have a Pepperjack t-shirt, there's some in there. If you want to have my avatar on a coffee mug, that's in there too. Links in the description. And also, something I always regret not mentioning, if you do share the link to my streams on Twitter, please be sure to tag me in your tweets so I know that you did so I can thank you personally, because I really, really do appreciate it. Everyone, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for coming out today. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. Have a good rest of your Saturday, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.